We need to talk about Aston Villa in today's video and this race for Europe because I have to say, as a neutral, the Premier League race for Europa League, Champions League, European football is so excited and it's the only thing worth watching this season because Liverpool are probably going to win. The promoted teams are all just going to go straight back down. I'm a Man United fan, so I've got nothing to enjoy watching. So this race for Europe is exciting. Forest dropping points, City, Villa, Forest, Chelsea, and Newcastle all going for Champions League. You've got Bournemouth, you've got the Fulhams, all looking to see if they could maybe even get a Europa League spot because 6th and 7th should be Europa League, 8th should be Conference League. This race for Europe is getting very, very exciting. And Aston Villa are, in fact, the form team. 4 wins in the last 5. Newcastle also 4 wins in the last 5. I think Crystal Palace were in good form, although they've dropped off a bit recently. Exciting stuff this race for Europe. And I want to talk about Aston Villa because they've been really impressive lately. And one thing I want to talk about in regards to Aston Villa is squad depth. Aston Villa, back in January, people were doubting whether they're going to get Champions League football. Negative goal difference, a little bit vulnerable at the back, a little bit inconsistent. They went and got Rashford, Malen, Asensio, did some other business, and they've looked really good the second half of the season because when everybody starts to tire second half of the season, squad depth becomes more important. And when Aston Villa can put McGinn, Watkins, and Malen off for the bench, who are involved in all 3 goals today, that can get Europe. Aston Villa investing is what's going to get them Europe if they get Europe because the substitutions made the difference today. So let's talk about this game. I also want to talk about Youri Tielemans and just how good and underrated he's been this season as well. So here are my notes. I said the first half was underwhelming, especially considering the opposition. I don't think Villa were bad. I think they dictated play. I think they controlled game. I think they were getting frustrated. And I think for them to go 60 plus minutes without scoring versus Southampton, a lot of people were like, what's going on? But all Villa needed was the breakthrough. And once they had one, you knew that Southampton's mentality was going to go and they could get 2, they could get 3. And they got that goal. And it was a fantastic goal by Ollie Watkins. And the game really progressed. The second half was a lot better from Villa. The subs came on, the energy, the directness. And I have to say, the subs were fantastic. I do think, and I'm a Man United fan, I've watched Marcus Rashford for years, he's a left winger, he's not a striker. Every Man United fan knows that. And I also think that he would have done a lot better today than Ramsey in that left wing spot with the space that Southampton had left him. I think Watkins should have started striker and Rashford should have gone left wing, if I was going to be totally honest, in my opinion. But I'm not a Villa fan. I don't watch Villa every week. Unai Emery knows best, but that's just my opinion as a Man United fan. Rashford is a left winger. He's not a striker. There's no point in him being on loan at Villa to play him striker. He wants to play left wing. That's where he does his work. But I thought the second half was much better. I thought Malen was fantastic. Watkins, arguably man of the match, but Onana and Tielemans had a good game. Konsa, how good has he been at the back this season? And Villa controlled the game. They deserved to win the game 3-0. I think they just made it frustrating for themselves at the beginning. But as I said, the goal scorers being the subs, coming off the bench, it highlights Villa's excellent squad depth. I also think as well the exhaustion of Southampton, a lot of teams having players to come off the bench and make an impact is key. And Watkins was just incredible. I feel sorry for Asensio missing the penalties, but Watkins was incredible. Marlon's been scoring a lot lately, and I do look at him and think he's a miss for PSG. He is a miss for PSG. I think had you lost 2-1 to PSG, I think the game's on. But I think because you've lost 3-1 to PSG and you conceded that last minute dagger, I do think that's going to be a difficult game for you to come and get back in. So let's talk about Youri Tielemans. I think Tielemans is having an absolutely phenomenal season. I've said this since October, I've said this since November. How good he's been this season is crazy. I think he needed a bit of time to settle in his first season, but he's really been good lately. And what I've noticed is it's his ability to progress play, his ability on the ball. You've got Onana, he can do work off the ball. You've got Kamara, that is unbelievable player and can do both defensively. But on the ball, Youri Tielemans, if you give him the license to be that deep line playmaker, his vision, his passing, his ability to dictate from deep is unreal. He can progress the ball. He's so good on the ball and he can allow Villa to get the ball moving. But he's also very press resistant, can receive from the centre-backs, can play the pass. He brings that much needed composure to the Aston Villa midfield, and that's such a rare profile to have in today's game and such a needed profile. His technical ability is insane, and I'm surprised there wasn't actually more competition for Youri Tielemans considering, available on a free when Villa went and got him. But you can see him now in his best role, having a lot of the ball, dictating play. He's had a phenomenal season. One of them, I would put him in the top 10 most underrated players this season, arguably maybe top 5 in terms of how good he's been, because I think Villa fans know how good the likes of Tielemans have been, Konsa have been, but they've been so underrated. Like, everyone's talking about how good Morgan Rogers has been, and he's been unbelievable, but nobody's really given Camara the credit in the past. I know he's had injury issues. Konsa and Tielemans, they've been just as good to Villa when it comes to like getting in this run for Europe. Amadou Onana, he's been hit and miss at Villa so far, and that's not really on him, that's more because of injuries. But I thought this was one of his best games for Villa. I thought he had a strong game. He can cover a lot of ground, he can win duels, he can do the physical side, and pair him up with Tielemans that can do the technical side. I think the pairing is really good. He's not Camara, and I think, you do notice a difference from Camara to Onana, because I think Camara is a different level of good. And again, another player was available on a free you picked him up for. I was so annoyed when Camara went to Villa because I wanted him at Man United from watching him over in France, and I just couldn't believe we weren't pushing for it. And Camara's an unbelievable player, and I think, it's hard for Onana to compete with that, but you're seeing what he can bring off the ball, and I think he pairs with Tielemans well. And I thought man of the match was between Tielemans, Watkins, for me in the subs. I think Onana was up there, but I think Tielemans edged it for me because of just how good he's been this season and his all-round impact. But he's been phenomenal for Villa, and I don't think he gets enough credit, to be honest. I did a top 3 players in each position, and I put Tielemans, I think, in centre mid. Which a lot of other players haven't given Tielemans that shout. Tielemans, Tonali. There's a lot of players that are having these excellent seasons, but I feel like only Newcastle fans are talking about Tonali. Only Villa fans are talking about Tielemans, and I think sometimes they don't get the credit they deserve. So this was what Sky Sports posted actually last week or the week before, and this is passes under challenges. So this is just talking about players, how press resistant they are. And the top 3, if you asked me to guess the top 3, I would have got it correct. Gravenberch, Guimaraes, Tielemans. In terms of press resistance, passing, dictating play, they're probably the 3 best players for me. Bernardo Silva, I'm surprised he's there, but Caicedo, Tielemans, Gravenberch, and Bruno Guimaraes are 4 of my favourite midfielders in the Premier League. I think all of them have had absolutely excellent seasons because what they can do is they can resist the press, they can dictate play from deep, they can play the ball. They're such key players for their team, and I think sometimes they go a little bit under the radar for that. All excellent players. Continuing on, I thought Ollie Watkins was brilliant. I think instant influence, sharp, the movement, the runs, the trouble, the winning the fouls, the goal that got the breakthrough for Villa. That goal was unbelievably good. Southampton, you were always kind of going to beat them, but you were getting more and more frustrated, and you needed that goal to open up the game. Once you're 1-0 up, you knew that Villa were going to win a 2 or 3-0. Southampton had gone. They were holding on to that 0-0, tight, and you got that goal, and it was always going to be it. And he could have been easily man of the match. And I find with Watkins, sometimes these easy chances he misses, and I'm like, how do you miss that? But whenever he gets a hard chance, he scores. He scores some of the hardest chances in football, and I think, in my opinion, he should be starting versus PSG. I'd put Rashford on the left, I'd put Watkins up top, I'd probably put Asensio on the right, and I'd probably play Rodgers as the 10. I think Rodgers is better as a 10, and that's my only criticism. Rashford is a left winger, Rodgers is more of a 10 than a right winger in my opinion. Again, not a Villa fan, so if you disagree, let me know. I don't watch you week in, week out, but that's probably what I'd have done. Malen obviously isn't available for the PSG game, but I feel like it works, it vibes well together. I think we need to give Malen a shout out because he scored versus Brighton, Forest and Southampton. That's now 3 games in a row. He's starting to improve. The confidence is there. And I think he will be in this for the Champions League. He's looking good. I saw people saying he scores for fun, and it looks like he is at the moment. And I'll just continue on. This is a clean sheet for Villa. You've massively improved defensively the second half of the season. Konsa's been really good lately. You're on top form. You're on Europa League, looks certain. Champions League you could maybe get. It's a very interesting race for Europe, but the huge games, Newcastle and City. If you beat Newcastle and City, you've got Champions League football. I don't know if you will, but that is your cup final almost. And then you've got Palace in the semi-final, which is a difficult game. But I will give shout out to Morgan Rogers with 14 goal contributions lately. Only Salah and Bruno have been involved in more in 2025 than Morgan Rogers in the Premier League, getting another assist. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching. Bye.